Okay, perfect. All right, so thanks again. I mean, I'm sure we'll try to keep it at an hour, but of course, like if you have some follow-up questions and want to linger, I'm here. But again, I know some of you are on Eastern or otherwise middle in the US, so it's pretty late for you on a Friday evening. So thanks again for coming. Okay, let me share my screen and we'll start going into like what it takes, what is the process of like creating this website and then how to like modify it and update your changes. So this link that I shared, I will again send it out again, has like different sections, you know, that if you want to just go to a specific step that you today, like as we go through it, you remember, oh, I need to just review something. It's like sectioned out. So you could probably easily find the section you're looking for. But the whole idea is if we go to the top, and I will make it slightly bigger. Okay. So the whole idea is like you can start from scratch, but what I'm trying to give to you is like a template that once you have the template, you understand what's going where. You can then start like looking into like Googling something. Okay, how do I make the theme look slightly differently? Or how do I do like add a new tab in this page? Like you once you know it, you'll be able to like add and modify it accordingly. But I wanted to give you like the whole template. And what it looks like is if you go down somewhere here, it says, actually, I am here. This is the website, what I'm talking about. So what you get at the end of the day is like you get a website like this where you have your name up here, I'm assuming, or whatever you want to put. So you can go between different tabs. So you have a home tab where you'd probably put something about yourself, something about research, and then anything you want to think about, right? Currently, we don't have any resume here. And I will show you like we have all the materials are there. I will just add and modify it. So we'll add a resume tab here. But anytime you click this button, your name, it always will go back to the home page. So that's a nice feature. And then I will show you like, where does this picture come from? Why is this font look slightly different, right? How do you make this different headings? Those are the things that I can teach you from scratch, or better is like, I will give you the template and as we modify it, we'll get into like what it does. Now, eventually what you'd want is, so this is my homepage, like this is what I based it out of. And if you want to go take a look at like what are the other things you could do, it's basically a very dumbed down or a smaller subset version of my website. So you can look at different things. For example, what I will also want you guys to take away from here is like you probably have seen different metrics. So for example, if you're a paper and you want to see like, you know, or show off a little bit of like what your activity has been, there's this things called alt metric and how to add those to your specific paper. So we'll go a little bit over that. And I just wanted to give you like an overview of what it can be. So if you go to research, you can like here, there is no little sidebar that you can click through, but here there is, because like you probably want people to go between different sections very easily. But if you've ever made or you want to like take a different website and just embed in your website, that's also possible. Like I made like a little Shiny app that will load in this space, right? And so this is like a little Shiny app. You select the G and it will show you the daily expression and it gives you a bunch of stuff. But the good part is you can embed that in your website and then give some documentation what it means. So sometimes you run into apps where you have a documentation somewhere else. So you could just put it all together. And what I was going to tell you is like, or what I told you is like, you can attach your CV in a PDF format. And then if you go back, it goes back to where you were, right? So if I go here, okay. So this is the whole idea. This is all based on this template you can do. So I asked all of you, but everyone has a GitHub account, right? Okay, so let's go back to the tutorial part. So the first step would be like for us all to do is we'll make a copy of this template, which currently resides in GitHub, and then we'll clone it to our own GitHub account, which is called like forking. So you basically take someone's our GitHub repository, and then you basically take it and put it in your make a copy. And then once we have that copy, we'll pull it onto our local computer, and then we'll make some changes, and then we can basically check it on our local computer. Everything looks fine. Does it work fine? And if it does, then we're going to push it so that our online website gets actually updated. So that's the three processes you do. Like anytime you need to modify, you just come back, modify it, and then push it. So that's the whole life cycle, right? And so the first thing is I will give you a link. So it says here, if I go use the step one, so the step one is like deploy website, which is basically cloning the template, right? And you all have your GitHub account, which means what will happen is, so currently, whatever we name the project is probably called XYZ in my repository. But when you clone it, it actually opens a tab. So we'll actually let's just do it instead of showing. So if I click here, it will take me to this template GitHub repository. I will share it in the chat so everyone can just click it. So in here, what you're seeing is the code behind this website that I'm showing you, right? So what you do is like if you go on GitHub, so let me know if anyone is not on GitHub currently. Okay, perfect. So the place you want to click is this little thing called fork. So if you click this fork button, so required. Okay, I already have something in here. So let me just quickly delete mine. I feel like some of you might already have forked this, right? Do you have the same situation where you have forked it? No? Okay. So let's go back. So where am I? So it's called does blue. Okay. So let's see. So I have already forked it, right? So what I'm going to do is like, I'm just going to delete it for now. So we go through the steps together. So if you need to delete a thing, you go to settings up here, you go at the very bottom, somewhere here is a delete this repository button. You click, apparently you have to just copy paste this and you delete. Okay, so now that I don't have the repositories here, I have just random other repositories, I should be able to clone it. So if you ever like copied someone's repository, it's possibly going to tell you the same error. So now if I go to that thing I was looking for, whoops. So this is the template repository. If I click fork now, so this is what you should all see. And here's what you need to, the repository name always will be, so here, for example, your repository name will be like, if it's homepage, it will show up as your username.github.io/homepage. If you want to call it a website, it will be website. So you get to pick a name that will be easy for you to remember and to pass it on to someone, right? Which also like says that, okay, this is your personal website. For example, like, so I have like, you can see up here, it's like my name.github.io, then we have homepage, but I have like other websites too. So it might be easy for you to like just remember something. So I have a thing for ants. I have something called Derby. It's all just like going to be different repository names up here. So you just like pick one. And for our purposes, I will just say, maybe I will go here, where am I? And just call it web page. No, homepage, let's call that. And then in the description, it's like optional. You can just say my personal website or something. It's not going to be anywhere in your website or the ultimate website. So you just create a fork from here. Is everyone with me so far? Okay, so it should take like a few minutes. Now the question is like, this is now my repository. It says up here, it's called homepage. It's forked from the other repository, which is called like my dummy website. So I've like copied it from someone else. And then you basically have everything here. But we want this now on our personal local computer, right? So this is where GitHub desktop comes in very handy. So everyone has GitHub desktop? Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Let's see if I can share my whole desktop too. So do you see the GitHub app? Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'll just make it slightly bigger. So what you would want to do is you go here, add. So here on the left top part, it always shows you which repository you're in, right? So you select here, if you have existing repositories, it should show here. Like I have like a bunch of repositories that currently exist, but I want to clone something from the internet. So if you click add, it shows up if you information. If you have a repository that you just created locally and you want to push it, that will be saying add existing repository. You want to push something to GitHub. And if you want to take something from GitHub and bring it locally, you say clone repository. So if you click that, it shows you all the different options you might have. So if you don't see it yet, just click this refresh button and it should show, like, for example, I have like, oh yeah, I forgot that I already have this. So can everyone copy it? Like you basically go here, I just have it on my thingy that I will just delete and then we can do it. So as you can see, I was playing with it. I will remove it. It's all fine. It says it's gone. And then I can remove it. Okay, I'm back here. So I need to now clone it. So if I add clone repository, it shows, I click this. Here in the bottom part, if you want, this is like me just saying, if you want to organize yours pretty well, you could like already like figure out how you're going to organize your repositories. Maybe it's like you want a different folder than what's shown here by default. So you just choose that. So I can go to like desktop and I can just like put it here in desktop and that's fine. You know, that's also possible. You can do it in the documents, wherever you want to do it. And then you click clone and it will take a few seconds again, like, and it brings everything over. Now it's asking like, you have changes on this branch. So I'm copying someone's branch and this is asking if I want to contribute or if I just want to use it for myself. I would say like for your purposes, you'll probably modify it and not push changes to my repository. So I would say for my own purposes and you continue. It's just like asks for a preference, nothing else. So everyone's here now. We have our thingy locally. Okay, so how do we get to the our project? The good part about GitHub Desktop is you can actually click here, show in Finder or show in Explorer if you're on Windows. So you want to click that and it should open up the Windows of what they call it, File Explorer or the Mac Finder. And let's take a look briefly at what the contents of this thing is. So there's a folder called Assets, and we'll talk about it briefly. There's something called Docs that is, so the Docs folder is essential. It usually will contain, not usually, it will for sure contain all your HTML files that you generate based out of our Markdown code. So that is essential. Assets just contains extra things that you might want to use in your project. Could be like some stylistic things, could be some fonts that you have downloaded, but we'll talk about it later. You can have images, right? Several different images that you have, and you don't have to put it in the root directory, which is basically root directory is where everything is, right? So you don't want to put everything in here because I have like 6 or 7 or maybe sometimes 10 images that are slightly different. So I would want to organize them. You can make a new folder called images. You can have subdirectories called images 1, images 2, and you can have these. And we'll get back to them when we're using it in the, and then you have something called renv. And that will be a separate discussion for a second. We'll see if everyone can run it. But you can put your resume in a different folder. Again, you don't have to put it in the main thing. But the RMD files actually need to be here. This is how it is set up. All the index, research, website tutorial, so all the RMD files are the R Markdown files. And those need to be in the root directory. If you take these and put it in a different folder, then you're currently how it is set up, the website will not render. So we'll go to other things in a second, but let's just open this, right? So if you click this little button here, this R project file, it should open up an RStudio session where it knows where it is. It knows all the different things that are in the root directory. So let's open this R project file and then we'll start like, see if we can load locally the website that we want to create. All right, as it's loading, it's probably like a good stopping point before we move into our questions. Anything about like GitHub desktop or like any questions you might have? Okay, which is good. I guess everyone's on board. You said everyone has used. I again apologize if my screen looks very weird, but I'm going to show you just the console on the left side, and then I'll show you some files on the right side. So if I look at, so you can see all the different things you have currently again in your folder right in our studio, because the file viewer is pretty good. You can also see the hidden files, which is nice because like it's basically dot anything is a hidden file. But the main important file, which is absolutely necessary for building a website, is it always needs to have an index.rmd file. So this little file here is always going to be that main page anyone goes to. And then from there, we can direct people everywhere else, but index.rmd file is essential. Okay. So let's say we open this, right? And for up here, right at the top, it says packages are Markdown, knit pacman required, but are not installed. So now comes the part of like, we need some packages. So does everyone see those things up there? So easy way is actually, which might, easiest way would be like, if you go to your console and you type renv, then you have colon, and then you have restore. So this is basically a package management thingy, but what I have done is I've bundled all those different packages and versions that I use to build this website. So if you run this, it says, would you like to restore the project library? Yes or no. And then if I say yes, then everything will get installed because I already have everything in my computer. So it will just take it from some package repository locally, and then it will install. So can you try it and tell me if for someone it worked? If it doesn't work, there's a separate process to do it. I don't want to press yes yet, just because if it doesn't work, then I will try a different process.
It's downloading a bunch of stuff for me.
Yeah, so the download part should work. It's like when it starts to install packages, that might fail. I mean, from past experience, I know someone's will definitely fail, and I just want to hear if it did work for someone. Okay, while it's running, since we actually have one more step to go towards, we can leave our studio and go back to, do you see my Chrome window now with all the, yeah? Or do you still see our studio? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's see. So that was step one, was like to, fork. So you said we did click the fork button, we copied it, we got it into our own thingy. So we cannot deploy the website because currently we don't need to modify anything. Let's see if we can build that website online that we will then push changes to once we modify it. So to do that, you go back to the same page, where it should say github.com, your username right here, and then and then slash whatever you call it. So we go to the repository, because once you go there, and since you're the owner, you should be able to see a settings button. So if you click settings, it opens up a bunch of things. Does anyone need time? How do you go to your repository? That's, for example, let's say you're not where you want to be. If you go back to your GitHub desktop, in this page, you should be able to click on this view on GitHub, and it will open it up for you. So it'll open up the repository that it is trying to like access. So you basically would go to this little thingy where you should be able to see the code page. Up here, code, there's like a different options, but then there's settings. So everyone there? Okay. If not, please stop me, okay? If you go to settings, there's like a lot of options here. We want the pages, because what we do is GitHub necessarily does not have a framework where you can just upload a website, but GitHub Pages does that. So if you click Pages, which is right here, code and automation, the last option, it says build and deployment. So it's asking which branch do you want to deploy from. So branches are a different discussion, but if you click this, deploy from a branch. Oh yeah, right. So this is what we want. We want to deploy from a branch. Which branch it is, you put here. So currently you only have main. So you just put main. And then it's asking which folder contains your HTML files, which we know is in the docs folder, right? So you can just like click docs, and then you just click save. Is everyone, so you want to deploy from a branch, the branch should be main, and then the folder that the HTML files are in docs, and then you click save, and that's it. It's in the background. If you refresh it, you'll be able to see a link here shortly. It's currently building it. So we can go back to our studio now. And where are we? Did someone's fail? Or did everyone got the packages installed? Wow, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised. It worked. Okay, so the other option is like, I could have done it here. The other option is like you open a RMD file and you can click this install button, which in the background will start installing those packages, right? So currently we don't need to do this. I could just use this yes option, and it got everything it needed because I have already everything installed. So it wasn't too bad. So now we want to, once everything is installed, the first thing always is to restart the R session, which if you are on, you can do it by shortcut, or you can go to like, where is it, session? So you go to session on the top and you say restart R. Usually they show you what kind of shortcut you can use. It's like very handy. So you restart your thingy, and then what you want to do is you want to type R Markdown. That's the package. And which function do you want to use? It's called render and underscore site. So if you type R Markdown : render site, it will start building all the QMD files, and it will show you, like, it will give you a little message here saying, output created this HTML file. And what you can do now, go back to your Explorer. You can go to docs, and you can click this index.html file, and it should open up a local copy of the website, just because it has everything in there, and we can now start pushing changes to. All right, so let's see if I can open this in one of here. So it should look like this, right? Oops.
What was that function that you just ran in the console? I missed that.
It's called R Markdown render site. So render site is the function, render underscore site.
Okay, thank you.
So the good part usually is that it gives me a viewer. For some reason, it doesn't give me a viewer. If you individually you want to work on one page at a time, and you don't want to like look at the whole thing at the same time, you can just knit. So this is what you're usually used to, right? You want to have an RMD file, and you want to create whatever thingy you want. Right now, I'm creating a HTML document. So if I click knit, it will knit it. It says something about install packages that are necessary. It doesn't matter, just click yes. It will do it, and then it will knit this, and you should be able to see it in the viewer, which is very handy, because then we can look at which code generates what, right? So everyone can see it in the viewer, right? Okay, so I'll just walk you through what it is doing. So the top part you can see is this thing, the tilde, I don't know, dash, 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 and dash, dash, dash. Between this, whatever you have is called the YAML header. So it's YAML header. but it's basically going to set some things like it's setting, okay, the output of this knitting should be a HTML document. Sometimes you can take a Word document as an output, PowerPoint presentation, and other things. TOC is just saying table of contents. For the homepage, I don't really need those sections and people be able to click through the sections. If you need, you can put it in there. So for example, if I set it to yes, and then I re-knit this, so you'll see now there's like this thing that I can click and go to another place. And how does the TOC work? TOC works by using headers. So in our Markdown, if you use one hash, that's header one. So this is going to be the biggest one we have. If you do two, this will be header two. And then similarly, if you do three, header three, right? And if you knit this, you'll see all of this in action. So you have header one looks like this. Title is always bigger than the header one. But you also see in the TOC part, you can actually go between things now. So for the front page, I don't like it. So I just like will remove that. And so reknitting, if you're on a MacBook, is Command Shift K. If you're on like Windows, it's Control Shift K, I think. Okay. So first thing first is picture. Where's my picture coming from? So if I look at files, you'll see in the root of the directory, there's something called something.jpg, something.jpg. So these are the pictures, but I also have some images here that I could use as my personal websites, my picture. So the code is right here. So the code right here actually is using this knitr package to include a graphics, and it's called this. If I want to use this image, for example, whatever 01.png is called, so I would say I'll change this. So let's say comment this out, make a new one, and I'm going to call it, so it's in the images folder. If I go here back, so it's in the images folder and it's called 01, right? So I can write this, it's an images folder. If you want to be very specific, // is just saying dot is basically the root of the directory, going to the images folder, and then use this picture called 01png. And then I can reknit this, and you'll see it has changed the picture. So you just need to put a picture of yourself somewhere in the repository, and then you can just use it to change it. Now, I told you, I'll tell you why this text here looks different than all the other text. It's because you can always use raw HTML within if you have ever done like HTML style code, then this will be familiar. It is like this was a 3-level heading. This is like a 6-level heading. So it's just smaller. So I have left it in there. You can play with it. And currently I would say, I would highly recommend when you play with it and you don't understand code, heavily recommend ChatGPT. I know people don't love to talk about it, but I heavily recommend ChatGPT if you want to like say, what is this doing and how can I make it this? That's a good process for you to like get new code that you understand because you have seen it before and then you can get some modifications on it. Okay, so I like to not give your, and one thing is like if you have seen before, like this is also probably not the best way to put your email out there because you'll get those, start getting those spams very quickly. But think about maybe some ways of like how to have your email ID in there without being very amenable to be, what do you call it? Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so this is the part where you write a little brief intro here that I wrote here. You write brief intro, whatever. You'll see there's a little link. And this link, if you click, will go into a website. And how you do put those kinds of hyperlinks is this is the format. So you have open square brackets followed by parentheses. So the first part, which in the square brackets would be the text. And then this will give you just a link. So you can say HTTPS, and then you say google.com. And this should work. So if I just reknit this, you will see that there's this thing called text that if I click, I don't know why it doesn't want to open it here where I can show you. Let's see if it opens. Nope, it still wants to go to my other. Okay. So if I click this, all right, it's happening. It's opening google.com. Okay. So this is a great way of like you giving them links. So suppose you want them to be directed at a certain paper of yours or certain thing you have done before. You would just like give hyperlinks here as such. I like this dashes. I don't think you can see, but it creates a very fine kind of section. It like creates a line basically in your website to kind of like say, okay, this is ending here. You don't need that many. 3 will do. If I do 3 and then I do knit, it should still do this little line, which is hard to see. And then the section headers again are just, if you want it to be bigger, then I like to play with section headers. So I just like, if I do this, then my publication thingy or the title would look bigger. If I want to make it smaller, I will just add more hash and then reknit, right? Okay. Now comes the fun part of like, I told you, I will show you how to add those altmetric stuff, right? Where you can actually see like the social media basically, or like blogs and stuff that have picked up your work. So this I have hidden. You have access to it in the RStudio thing. It's if you uncomment it, which so comment uncomment is like one shortcut I think like you should kind of like remember. It's like Command Shift C if you're on Mac, or Control Shift C. So this little piece of code is required to be run in the background, and it's just like going to allow you to then do what I want to do. So this is just like some JavaScript thingy that just like downloads some assets from from online, which allows you to then embed little HTML thingies. So the little thingies that I show are these altmetric thingy that I will orient you. So you have like this whole code. If I run it, let's just look at it, what happens. So if I run it, you get like this little blue bar that you can click and it will go to the altmetric site, and you can see like, okay, where was it referenced and whatnot. And how do you get that? There's a data dash DOI equals something. So anything in between those little parentheses, sorry, what is it, quotes, is the DOI for your paper. So if you find the DOI, which we can quickly do. So if we, oops, if I click this, I will open this. So let's go to Google Scholar. Let's find, I don't know, ants. Great. So we go to the ants book. Oh, that's not gonna work. Communication ants, that's better. So we want these DOI, right? So you find DOI somewhere. Come on, DOI. I think it's share. God, I picked the wrong one, but let's go to my papers. I know it fine. Okay. Nope. Let's get that. Get that. Okay. Acknowledgement. Why do they make it so hard? I feel like I know this. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna just
I
not.
just saw it at the beginning, like right below the title, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's copy this whole thing. I don't know what happens here, but I think they don't like the HTTPS DOI part, but I'm going to put it here. Let's see if that works. Okay, let's rebuild this. Oh, it works. So now it has changed. If I click that, it will go to the paper that I looked at, and then you see everything. Okay. Sorry, that took a little bit of time, but there's other things you can change. Like if you look at this, just look at this little code piece and then try to see how you can change the data batch type, because you can basically get those circular things instead of row-wise row-wise thingies. So you can play a little bit with it to see if you want like slightly different versions, but you can just like do the same thing. So you did it here, you'll copy this whole thing for your next paper, put it right below it, and then you can change the DOI of this. And then you basically have like a little record of like what's happening with your papers, right? So that's one. We have like 20 minutes, okay? So I would like to pause for a second and then ask you, I will show you how to do the resume thing. What are other things you'd like to see? What would you like? Like, do you want to see how you can embed like a YouTube video in your website? Because suppose you had some tutorial or something in YouTube or any other platform that you want to like embed in there. Is that something you would like to see?
Could you talk a little about like creating multiple pages and linking them? I'm not very sure I
Oh
understand.
yeah, we haven't even gone there, have we? All right, so this is our front page and I've messed it up very well. So we'll just leave it here. I'll just say I was here, so I know this was me. Okay, so suppose I did these things. Now, before we do anything, let's go back to our GitHub project, right? Remember we were in the Pages tab. So let's swing back to that. If you refresh it now, so you should be able to now see this little tab saying your site is live. So if you click that, it will open it up, and this is what it looks like. How about we push these changes before we move into like going to the navigations? Let's see how we update this, right? Does everyone have a link now? So if you have not changed anything in your website yet, oops, where am I? So if you have not changed anything in this index.rmd file, I would recommend change something. So you can push and see if the push is working or not. Just change some random stuff. You can just type a little thing. Okay, so now before we do this, we all go back to GitHub Desktop. So GitHub Desktop will be a one-stop shop to just see what has changed in my repository. Here it's saying I changed something in the index.rmd file, which I did. I did a lot of changes, which should change the index.html file, right? And then you see there's something called website._tutorial, which has one change. This is mostly because it has a date field that updates every time you run it. So nothing special has changed. So you can actually discard this one. So by right-clicking it, you have the option to discard changes. So you can do that for one specific file that you don't want to change, and you say discard changes. So the only thing that I want to change is this index file, right? So how you document it is like for this to be pushed to GitHub, you need to give a summary of what changed. So you can write, there are some conventions, but you can write something small, brief message. I'm saying like something like it's a chore, test, push to GitHub. So I'm just testing if the push is going to change my website or not. Because that's how it's set up. You don't have to do anything with the website anymore. You just need to push this change. And the rest is taken care of. So you commit to main and you push to origin. So if you click commit to main, you should see something here that says push to origin, which is origin is always like the GitHub online. And then if you have made some changes, maybe you use someone else's computer to change something, you would always want to click fetch origin to see if anything needs to come from online before you start pushing things. So it's always a good idea. Okay, now we can view on GitHub, right? And what you should be able to see is this little orange or yellow, I don't know. Am I colorblind? No, this is definitely yellow. So this yellow little button here is what is happening is like in the background, GitHub is building your website and pushing it. All we want to do is just go double check our website, right? So currently my website looked like this, and I'm hoping in a few seconds, like GitHub takes a little bit of time, but like in like 4 or 5 seconds, this should change. I think it's going to be das Bilder. That's the right one. Where's my pages? Okay, I'm here. So it hasn't changed yet. Oh, there you go. So if I refresh it, this is my changes. So I hope everyone could modify their website so far. If you need some time, completely fine. All good? Okay. All right, let's go into how do I connect or add pages. So if you go back to files, if I go to my root directory, So there's something called, so you can see I have like research.rmd file here, which is another page. Again, like take a look to see what's happening in this page where you can change. This is just stylistic things. This will make it like italicized. You can do like bold, whatever you want to do. Then there's this file called underscore site dot YAML. So this little file here, underscore site dot YAML, if you click that, that is the configuration of your page, the index.qmd file. So when you have that, you have a lot of options. So if I look at my viewer, you can see like it says something about, let's say, navbar. So the navbar part is everything to do with like what's happening in your top bar, the navigation bar. You can see like if I make it slightly bigger, you have this thing called home. So here on the left side, show me these things, which are shown here on the left side. And on the right side, show me these, which is the links to my Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Scholar, whatever you want to put. And here I can add a new page. Remember, I had this resume file, this resume underscore John Doe. So if I look to files, if I look at resumes, there's right here, resume. There's something called resume underscore John Doe. So I'm basically saying create this new tab, which will be called resume. href is just telling you, okay, take this PDF and display that. And then I'm just adding an icon, right? So now, so can someone tell me I have changed this. What is the command I should run to like, update my whole website, not just one page? Oh, I have it right there. It's our Markdown render site. So we were using one page at a time, right? And I'll show you what is the problem. If I click research, click home. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So if you click this, if you run this now, the render site, something happened, everything changed. I always, as I said, like to check that everything has changed and the website is working. So you can, from within RStudio, you can go to like the docs folder, and then you can click index.html and you can say view in, open in editor, and index and view in browser. So if you do view in browser, it will open. So this is a local copy. You can see by the link up here. It's basically the path of your file. So now you can just click between things, and you can click the resume file, see if it works, and it does work. So this is where if you want to add a new part here, you will just do this, is go to this underscore site dot YAML file. And here you will just add a new thing. So you'll just say text, what should it be called? Let's say another page, href, which is basically saying either it's an HTML file that you created, or it's a PDF file or some other images. So I could, so let's create an R Markdown file quickly, right? So if I go to if I go and take, let's say file, new file, R Markdown, where is it? Yeah. And then you can do this, right? You can create this R Markdown file. I do not like this. I think like we have done enough of the work already to be able to do this again. So I will just take this little research.rmd file, and I'm going to say file, save as, and then it tells you where to save it, which is going to be the same place that research RMD works. So I'm just gonna call it another page, another underscore page, and save it as an RMD file, right? And here you can do a lot of stuff. I'm gonna delete everything other than this title up here. And I can say, this is my new page. And I need to link this another page in the site YAML route, right? So if I go back to the site YAML, I have this another page. What do you think should be here? The RMD file is called another underscore page. So this will be, so this will be another underscore page. And then it's not going to be the RMD file, but it's going to be HTML that will generate. right? So let's generate. So we created something, but we need to generate again, update so we can just like use our Markdown render site again. It will generate stuff. It will output. And let's see. Nope, that is not it. So I can now like go to files again, go to docs, go to index.html, view in browser. It should open and see there's something called another page here. So if I click the another page, this is your new page. And what you can do with this is up to you, right? Do you want to start creating your new analyses or new project? If you do want to do that and you don't want to highlight, some you might want to highlight, right? This is this analysis that's already published and I want to like have a good way to like document everything I did. So you can have a page that's like helping people understand those things. But suppose you don't want, you have like 100 of those things and it changes almost all the time. So this little HTML file is probably something that you want to keep between yourself and your PI or your collaborators. And in that case, what we can do is just, generate the page, but don't show it. So you generate that HTML file, it exists in the ether, but it doesn't, people have no way to get to it. So if you do this, and I will re-render the site again, right? Because it needs to be re-rendered every time we change something in the navigation or in the page. So now if I go back here, oh, it doesn't want to allow me. Why not? Okay, just go back, index, open in browser. Now it's gone, right? But you know the password. It's basically having a password. You know what this page should be called. So come up with the creative name that no one can guess. And you can just, what did we call it? Another page, right? Another page.html. It's still there. It's still there. It's just not accessible in the navigation bar. If anyone goes out of it, they won't be able to access it. Okay, so we did all of that good stuff. Now we need to still push the changes so for good measure, we'll just build the site one more time. It runs pretty quickly. Then you go to your GitHub desktop and you see what you're pushing. So we always need to make sure that the HTML files are being pushed because those are the ones that are going into the website, right? Even if you by mistake do not push the RMD file, that's fine, but all the HTML. Usually you don't want to like remove anything, just have everything in there and say feature modified website navbar, right? Or added like, so now that when you push, again, the same process, you basically go back to your homepage that is not local, but actually, where is it? I was here. Yeah. So if I check it here, there is no resume, which will just appear in a second now. So if I keep refreshing, it still needs to run, right? In GitHub, if you go back and look at GitHub, homepage. So the place you would want to check to see if your thing is failing or not is actions. So this is like another thing to keep an eye on. If you click actions, you will see that this is currently, it's called pages build and deployment. If you click this, then you basically see what has happened. But yeah, it's done. It's the check mark, it's done. So if I now update, yeah, right here, there's a resume. You can click it and it will show. So we have 5 minutes and this is, I think, like sufficient for you to like start like thinking of ways you want to use it. I will give you a few links if you want to dive into the code, because there are things you could do with it. Like currently I am making the HTML files and sending it to GitHub to just upload, just basically which uploads and updates my website. But you can also use GitHub to build your HTMLs every day. And that helps you, like maybe you are working on some data that you keep in a Google Sheet and you want to see a plot every day. So you don't have to make it anymore. You can just like build it. So if you're interested in something like that, I will give you the code for it. So the site that I generate like this, I have something like, for example, if you've used NCBI data sets. I can just like can pull to see how many sequencing data I have. Every day it will run itself. So it says last updated today, but I haven't looked at it in like past months. But it keeps doing it, and it's like a nice way for you to do it. So I'll just give you like a few links to different websites. Now that you have seen this, you probably will be familiar with a few others. But does everyone have now a working, functioning, modifiable website? Okay, I guess like that's the goal. I'll send out an email with some of the information and some other pointers. Quarto is also fun. If you've used our Markdown, Quarto is getting better and better, where actually they are now having templates to write your papers within R as a Quarto file. I don't do that. I think like that's like a little too intense and it's hard for like collaboration, but there are like some cool stuff you can do with that. Yeah, so do you think like something like this, and I need this feedback right now. If you don't have questions, then can I use like 2 minutes to just say, this is like what I envision for something that we want to do as part of like IUSSI DEIJ committee, NAS, is like offer workshops like these that doesn't have to be necessarily this detailed skill-based or niche. But I also feel like something that is more general, reusable. Like I work as a data scientist, but also learned a few things during the PhD that helped me get a job outside. And I feel like everyone should have access to it, which we can make it happen. So I just wonder, like, do you think like this is something's okay or something that we could like make it better? What do you think? Oh, sorry, can I stop recording?